to the flag
to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the
which is stand one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
And before we all sit down, I think it's proper and fitting for us to have a moment of silence for Supreme Justice Ruth Ginsburg.
¿Quieren hacer un minuto de silencio?
Her bio the other day on TV, a small, sweet lady, very soft voice, very soft spoken, and she talked about
Están
how
hablando.
when she came out of law school, how she could not do the job. She had 3 strikes against her.
Está
Number
pidiendo un
1,
minuto
she
de
was a
silencio.
woman. Number 2, she was a mother, and number 3, she was. I said to myself, when are we going to stop looking at people about their nationality or wherever they came from,
No se
and
le,
just accept people as they and I simply would like to
no se le
say
escucha
to her
bien,
family
pero
that we are
ella está pidiendo un minuto de silencio por ahora para ver y está
we wish much support at the same time. So could we just have a moment of silence, please? Thank you all.
Gracias por el minuto del silencio.
Roll call, okay?
Llamada del roll.
Thanks, Gladys.
Joseph Britton
absent at this time, expected later on the call. Rachel Chalesky,
no está presente. Rachel
Kate
Chalesky, Kate
Gladys
Kennedy,
Cooper.
Gladys Cooper
She's here. Lauren Daly,
está aquí. Lauren Daly
Joe De
está
Silva,
aquí. Joe
Catherine
Silva
Basham,
está aquí. Catherine Bassi
Rich
está
Ginelli.
aquí. Richard Ginelli
Kathy
está aquí.
Molinaro,
Kathleen Molinero
Al
está aquí.
Russo.
Albert Russo,
Amy Spolina.
Amy Spolino.
That's
Aquí.
10 present.
10 personas.
And before we move on, we're going to ask all board members to please mute your microphone until you get ready to speak, please.
Le está pidiendo que por favor corten el micrófono, que lo suspendan.
Dr. Sarah, you going to do the recognition at this time?
Van a hacer el conocimiento del maestro del año.
Okay, great, because he's been running the program.
Él está buscando
we have
también.
Dan here as well tonight. We're very proud.
Están muy orgullosos.
Strangers to this board. She has been in front of us.
Ella siempre ha estado en el
just a real dynamo, and it's just been outreach
en el
to
board,
students
en el
since she's been here, just doing the impossible things, which really
siempre ha hecho lo imposible de las cosas para reconocerse, para reconocer.
Sure. So good evening, Board of Education.
Buenas noches,
also good to see you as well.
de la Junta Directiva.
So we have an opportunity to
Tienen la
celebrate our
oportunidad
2019-2020
de celebrar el reconocimiento para el maestro del año.
Survey the community during the spring.
Es que está sirviendo la comunidad durante el primavera.
And teachers and families
Profesoras recomiendan
and quite frankly, if there was
a los
every
empleados.
year, I recall being in a meeting with cabinet, and if there was every year we needed to recognize
Todos los años se
staff
tiene que
members, the 1920 year,
reconocer
was one of
a
them.
todos los empleados,
But we had one staff member in
pero
particular,
siempre tenemos
that really stood out amongst the rest.
un empleado que sobresale más que los demás.
To Dr. Sal's point, this is certainly not a stranger to the
Para
board, to
Dr.
the
Sal,
Danbury community.
dentro de la comunidad de Danbury y ha significado un rol muy importante. Ellos están celebrando este programa en todo el estado. También tienen un graduado en este programa. Están liderando y las estructurando. Es un tributo y para el compromiso con Westcon también para esta noche celebrarlo.
Dan Donovan, principal, has a few things to say. Go ahead, Dan.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here tonight
Buenas
to
noches.
present Soraya Bilbao as the teacher of the year.
Ella quiere presentar a Soraya Bilbao como profesora del año.
Soraya's favorite quote is a personal motto she lives by is one person can make a dish different.
Una persona puede hacer la diferencia.
She tries to live to that model in every possible
Ella
way.
siempre trata de buscar el modelo. Ella es el segundo language teacher, la profesora de segundo lenguaje. Siempre ha enseñado el inglés como segunda lengua primero, segundo lengua segundo. Para los estudiantes que llegan a la escuela secundaria por primera vez, ella hace sentir especial, le da la bienvenida. Soraya siempre va a buscar las oportunidades para que los niños entren a los colegios.
This weekly after-school study session provides ESL students who are native Spanish speakers the opportunity to take the AP Spanish exam.
Le dan el examen español.
ESL students have taken the
AP. 110 alumnos.
Of these, 65 scored 3 or higher.
65 tener un buen score, unas buenas notas. Se reúnen una vez a la semana. Otro programa que es muy bueno. El otro es Building to Bridges, o sea, edificar a través de los puentes. También le hace como a los alumnos como ingresar a visitar al Westcon, por ejemplo. ESL students siempre escriben a Dr. Sal como gracias por esta oportunidad. Me gustaría, otra persona también, otro alumno también escribió, gracias.
Soraya took over the role of instructing the minority teaching pipeline program at Westcon.
En Westcon también.
Two-semester college course offered minority and bilingual DHS students the opportunity to explore
le ayudan a explorar una carrera en ESL para los educadores del inglés como segundo idioma. Incorpora prácticas buenas para observar a otros estudiantes, compañeros.
And the culminating event is a poster session where students showcase what they've completed through their teaching portfolios. In addition to promoting educational opportunities,
aparte de producir oportunidades.
CT Students for a Dream. She has also testified to state capitol in support of undocumented students who are attending college for equal access.
También le da el soporte a los alumnos que no tienen documentos. Ella sirve como consejera. También sirve en el comité, en los unions. también Danbury
Soraya
School.
worked in numerous nonprofit organizations such as AmeriCorps and the United States Peace Corps. In this volunteer capacity, she served as a community educator in the Kingdom of Tonga in the South
Educadora de la
Pacific.
comunidad.
She taught English at a primary school and high school.
Ella enseña el inglés en las escuelas primarias.
Such as village-wide recycling programs, a youth leadership exchange, and a community play. It was her Peace Corps experience that inspired her to pursue a career in teaching.
Se inspiró con todo lo que ha experimentado para ser una profesora.
What spare time? So I enjoy swing dancing, reading fiction,
Le gusta
mostly from Stephen King, riding her bike on trails, exploring new places, and spending time with her family and friends.
Y pasar el tiempo con su familia y con sus amigos.
Pieces for publication to the Danbury High School online newspaper, the Hatters Herald. Remember the quote from JFK about one person making a difference? I believe you would agree with me that Soraya has done everything in her power to live up to that motto.
Ella siempre ha hecho todo lo que está en su poder para seguir ese modelo. Queremos dar un fuerte aplauso para el maestro del año, Soraya Bilbao.
Hello everyone. My name is
Hola a todos. Ella es la profesora de inglés como segundo lenguaje.
When Kevin and Gran mentioned to me that board and administrators had decided to bestow this.
Cuando todos decidieron que ella darles ese reconocimiento.
Joining Danbury High School and working with Danbury Public Schools, I have to say it's all been a team effort. Everything that Dan mentioned,
es un esfuerzo en grupo. No pueden hacerlo si no lo ha podido hacer todo lo que ha hecho sin la ayuda de los demás y el soporte de los demás. Ella cree en hacer la diferencia. Ella se acuerda cuando ella fue la primera vez cuando llegó a la universidad.
Going to my tour and immediately feeling this is where I need to be, and it was one of the best decisions.
Fue una de sus mejores decisiones, de una educación fenomenal.
And feeling was what I felt the first day I interviewed at Danbury High School when I went for my interview.
Se sintió cuando ella entrevistó a uno de los estudiantes de la escuela secundaria. El mismo sentimiento que ella sintió cuando ella también entró en su universidad. Gracias por darme la oportunidad para dedicarme a cada individuo en la escuela de Danbury School. Debería de haber el reconocimiento para todos los empleados de Danbury. Especialmente tiene el privilegio de enseñar a uno de los estudiantes muy excepcionales. Es el lenguaje que a veces no nos ayuda a seguir, pero ella está feliz y encantada de ayudar a los estudiantes. Gracias por este reconocimiento, ella está buscando hacia adelante para seguir trabajando con todos ustedes, para seguir haciendo la diferencia. Es uno de los lugares mejores en que trabajar, en donde trabajar. En parte de la Junta, gracias y continúa haciendo el trabajo. Gracias, muchas gracias. Gracias, Soraya Bilbao. Felicidades. Dr. Sal le dice felicidades.
always have young
Siempre,
in the front of your thinking, and
siempre estás hacia adelante.
glad it said to have you with us. So
Estamos
really
encantados de
proud.
tenerlo y
Congratulations.
estamos muy orgullosos de ti. Felicidades.
Moving on with the agenda, we want to have
Según
public
la agenda,
participation.
Sure.
participación pública.
Due to the unique nature of the
Debido a la
COVID-19
naturaleza
crisis and
única
the
de la
limitations of
crisis
technology,
COVID-19 y las
members of the
limitaciones de la
public who are Danbury
tecnología,
residents
los
are
miembros
invited
del
to send
público
brief
que son
comments and
residentes de
questions
Danbury
via email
están
in
invitados a
advance to
enviar breves
DPS
comentarios y preguntas por correos electrónicos con antelación a DPS Public Comment POE at Danbury K-12 City US.
All comments read out loud will be limited to 3 minutes.
Todos los
Contributors may
comentarios
offer
van a ser
objective
por 3
comments of
minutos.
school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students or against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System.
Sandy?
I'm ready.
Okay.
First comment is from Minnie Santosh. As a middle school student's parent, my son has distance learning and will be there for a while. Did the district take measures to have the privacy safeguards in place for students as they are on the camera through the entire distance
Mrs.
learning?
Sánchez está leyendo los comentarios de cada padre de familia que ha enviado para la Junta de
As
Educación.
an early childhood educator, how is the district expecting a pre-K student with special needs to be on a Chromebook for 2.5 hours a day,
una madre de
doing virtual
familia
distance
dice
learning and assuring that it is a
cómo
fair
los
delivery
niños
of
más
services to the
pequeños
child,
pueden hacer
and also expecting the child care centers to
aprendizaje a
coordinate these
distancia.
services for them if they are at their child care centers, while the centers have up to 15 other students in the classroom with minimum staffing. Eric Foreman. It is clear that some administrators and teachers are working very hard during this challenging time.
Siguen
However,
haciendo las
there is an
preguntas a los
overall parent
padres.
feeling that more needs to be done. Why isn't the Board of Education meeting weekly? We are in the midst of the biggest
¿Por qué la
generational problem
Junta
our
de
educational system
Educación
will
no
ever
se
face.
reúnen más
And what
frecuentemente,
we receive from our high school
semanalmente?
principal is, yes, it's full distance learning for everyone. I know we are trying to position the recent decisions as sound and well thought out, but the reality is we are in the bottom 17% of all state high schools in terms of graduation
siguen
rate.
comentando los
Not having a
padres.
plan to immediately address the overcrowded high school is quite frankly insulting. We are spending our time trying to communicate and execute on an overly complex schedule while the kids are suffering. Yes, the kids are suffering, and this is
Los
reality.
niños están
We need leadership, and it is
sufriendo y esta
sorely
es una
lacking.
realidad.
Kids rely on teachers rely on
Los niños
administration, and the Board of Ed is just a report out tool.
siempre
Now is not the time for parents to hear, it's not my decision, or we are following state guidelines. We are looking for a leader with courage to step up and lead us out of the hole we have put ourselves in. Confidence is low, and our kids are hurting. Melinda Scott. At the last meeting, it was mentioned that there were a few problems with technology. Many teachers are finding that this is not the case. Wi-Fi connectivity for those who have chosen to go into the
Están
school
hablando
buildings has
también de
been
los
troublesome and
Wi-Fi,
fast.
la
As
conexión.
with some of our students,
Wi-Fi.
calls are often dropped.
Algunas
Google went
veces
down a couple times.
en
And the
las clases de
fantastically
Google se
awkward frozen face
desconectan
has
por
happened
las
for all of us. Despite the issues, I want
conexiones
to point out that we are
tecnológicas,
really
sea el
making it work.
Wi-Fi.
Kids and adults alike have achieved great new levels of IT support. I am deeply concerned about
Necesitan
the connectivity when
IT
we are all in the
support.
buildings, though, with students and teachers. I know upgrades were mentioned, but based on experience, I remain concerned. To update you on the opening so far, I am so proud of my students for their tenacity and perseverance despite the challenges. I have had better attendance virtually than I normally have in school the first few weeks. I have had several students leave for appointments, the usual dentist, doctor, or flu shot, and rather
También
than be
hay
gone for the
algunas
day like
profesoras
when we
que,
were in school, they hop
algunos
right back
padres
on
que
as
hacen
soon
diferentes
as they get home.
comentarios también de
Don't
que
get me
algunos
wrong, I am
niños
exhausted.
están
The pace and
dejando,
requirements for the teacher are extreme, but
están
my students are
dejando,
engaged
por
and
ejemplo, hay
working.
algunos
For that,
niños
I
que
am
se
very
van a los
grateful.
appointments de los
Lastly, I want to
doctores
express my
y no
feelings
entran
on
a las
opening and
clases.
hopefully staying virtual. As I said, for me, the teaching this way is exhausting and hours are way too long.
So,
It is
algunas
impossible to
profesoras
get it
también
all
hacen
done,
sus
but being in
comentarios
school
y
and all
dicen que a
distance
veces
model
las
allows
horas
for
son
much
muy
needed
largas.
consistency right now. Parents have made a plan for all 5 days, and they can be confident in those plans not changing. The kids are also benefiting from this consistency, and teachers
So,
too.
los comentarios de
Unlike
los
surrounding
padres
districts
siguen.
who have had to shut down because of positive cases, Our teachers, students, and families can be assured a regular day, every day of the week.
Profesora,
I
los
hope this will be
niños,
considered when making the decision to return to the
y
hybrid model,
todos tienen que
as
tener
that
una
shift alone is going
consideración
to only exacerbate the challenges.
para
Michael
tratar
Milligan.
de
The COVID crisis
de
has caught us
vencer
all off guard and unprepared.
los
The second half of the
obstáculos que
spring
haya.
session was a learning experience for everyone, but it was also a time to become better at meeting the challenges presented by distance learning. As a first grade teacher and an employee of the Board of Ed for over 20 years, as well as a product of DPS, I know I
Siguen
have
los
met and overcome
comentarios
the
de los
challenges of
padres,
working from home and
profesoras
effectively
o
reaching and
personas
teaching
que
my students.
participan en la
It is not
junta.
an ideal situation, but it is working. I am unable to see the validity and the value of the compromise presented to teaching staff of moving from home to a school without students 2 days a week. Why? What is the reason? The
Esta
result will
pregunta
be
el
the
por qué,
same.
cuáles
There
son
will be
las
no direct
razones,
contact with children. They will be home where it is safe.
porque
Safety is
a
a major
veces
part of the issue. Safety and common sense. How can we be certain that all necessary updates have been completed to assure the proper and safe
que todo
ventilation
esté
exits in
perfecto, o
each
sea,
school
eso es lo que
facility?
tratan
Has the board purchased and
de
is ready to
preguntar.
provide the needed PPE required to assure that each teacher has a sufficient supply to guarantee their personal safety? And why should there be these additional concerns for teachers who are working safely at home? Currently, teachers are given the choice to teach from home or on campus. Why must that be modified when teachers who choose to are working from home when
Hay
they have
algunas
already
profesoras
bought
que
their
trabajan
supplies
de
and
casa
settled and teaching effectively?
y,
Why can't we as adults and
y
professionals make
algunos
our own choice as to what is
también,
best for
¿por
us
qué
and our classes?
entre
I
adultos, por
understand
qué
that
no
should I choose, I can
escogemos
stay home and not
nuestras
work under FMLA.
choice? O sea,
I
¿por
would
qué
be
no
earning full
elegimos lo que
salary for
uno
10
quiere?
days and then a portion of that for a predetermined period of time, and the system would provide and pay for the substitute in my place. Again, I ask why. Why would you keep an
Siempre
experienced and
preguntan el
dedicated
por
teacher
qué
home,
algunas
not
cosas
teaching, and
funcionan,
paying two
porque otras
salaries?
no.
I love my job. I want to teach,
Ella
but I have no interest in
ella le
exposing
encanta
myself
trabajar,
and
le
me, my
gusta
son,
hacer
and my elderly parents
su
to the
profesión.
dangers of COVID-19. I feel my back is to a wall, as I do not see what is being offered as a legitimate compromise, but as a needless and unwise choice. I would welcome justification and an explanation on
Yo
the position I am being put in so that I can make a truly informed and
Yo doy la
informed vote.
bienvenida a cualquier sugerencia, a cualquier
I want to talk to you about Danbury
cosas que me quieran
just
decir.
doing check-ins on Columbus Day, as we won't be in physical school that day. That way we can have no school on May 28th for a PD day. Dana O'Rourke. I have always supported the teachers and staff in Danbury. I feel that they work very hard. I would also like to compliment the administration at DHS for an amazing virtual open house.
A los
At the
profesores
DHS open house this week, flex time was explained and highly suggested for the students to participate in. Has it been considered that if the students were in class time for more than 3.5 hours a day, 4 days a week, that maybe so much flex time might not be needed? If they were in the building, they would not be getting that much flex time. We
Si
are also
estuviesen en el
informed by
edificio, no
the
le podrían
administration
dar
that
esa
too much screen time
flexibilidad.
is not good for the kids.
Y
They
como
can't play
ustedes
sports
saben,
together, so they get on their phones or
mucho
video
tiempo
games,
enfrente
more screens.
de la
Also,
computadora
why
no
does
es bueno.
school start for DHS almost 30 minutes after it normally will start if they were in the building? If the goal is to eventually get the students back into the building, shouldn't they be starting school at their regular start time so they will be used to it when they go back to school?
Supuestamente la
Shouldn't
meta
the distance
es
learning model mirror the
hacerles
hybrid model?
que estén a la hora
Parents have been
que se
told
estuviesen
that
en
this
las clases
school year is
presentes.
different
Entonces,
than
¿por qué no se
any
está
other,
haciendo?
and we need to be flexible and understanding.
Tenemos
We have
que ser
also been told that
flexibles y
the situation changes all the time.
comprensibles.
Maybe it is time for the
Hay
DHS
muchos
schedule
cambios.
to be reviewed to see if it works for all students. We ask the
Tienen que revisar
administration also
si
be
este
flexible and consider that
procedimiento
maybe the
trabaja para
schedule
todos los
as it is now
estudiantes.
does not work for all students.
Como se ve, a
Tina
veces
Pody.
no se
Has the Board of Ed considered
no se
allowing
trabaja para
teachers
los
or
mismos
staff members
estudiantes.
allowance to bring their children into the building to complete their distance learning? Kathy, no. I would like to commend the administration and teachers on the open house Monday night. They all did a great job considering the circumstances. My request to the superintendent and any other decision maker is to please revisit the time high school students are with their teachers in a synchronous mode. These students are only learning from their
Siguen
teachers
los
3.5
comentarios de
hours
los
a day,
padres, de
4
los
days
profesores y
a
los que
week for a total of
participan
14
en
hours
esta
a week.
junta de educativa.
This does not seem like enough time in front of their teachers. This was made very
Trato
clear
lo
at the open
mejor
house
de
when almost all the
traducirlo,
teachers I
pero
met
están hablando muy
gave some
rápido.
comment about everything taking longer online and running out of time. I understand younger students cannot handle a lot of screen time, but high schoolers can. Screen time high school
Ella comprende que los niños más pequeños no pueden estar enfrente de la computadora, pero Los alumnos de secundaria pienso que sí.
Students are done with their day in front of their teachers at 11:30 a.m. if they are not scheduled for any flex time, as the only mandatory flex time is from 8 to 8:25 a.m. on Wednesdays.
Son los miércoles, por ejemplo, son como de 8 a 8:25 el tiempo flexible.
And that is it for public participation tonight.
Y eso es todo para la participación pública de la comunidad. Por favor, sean pacientes.
Thank you again, Senator, so very much.
Gracias, Sam.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approves the items on the
Mucho
consent
que la
calendar,
Junta
Exhibit 20-95 through Exhibit 20-97 as recommended.
Cuando está recomendado. Que la Junta Educativa apruebe los elementos del consentimiento calendario, prueba documental. Que según se recomienda.
All in favor, Kate, call the roll, please.
Of course. Rachel Chalesky.
Richard
Kate
Salasky,
Canetta. Aye. Gladys Cooper.
Aye.
Lauren Daly.
Lauren Daly,
Joe DeSilva.
Joe De Silva,
Catherine Hodgson.
Catherine Hush,
Rich Janelli.
Rich Donnell,
Kathy Molinaro.
Cathy Molinero,
Al Russo.
Al Russo,
Amy Spallina.
M. Scalino.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion
So carried.
está todo, todos votan por la moción.
Have an employee representative here tonight?
¿El representante del empleado está aquí esta noche?
No.
No.
Are any of our students,
El
online tonight
representante,
with us?
el estudiante,
I think Jake,
el representante del estudiante,
are here.
Jack,
Okay, go ahead.
Jack, Jake,
Good to see
Gooding,
you.
Goodwin,
Too. Haven't seen you in a
Rebecca.
while. I just have a couple things to share. At the
Dos
start of the
cosas que
school
quieren
year and just give a
compartir
little introduction.
empezando
So my name is
el
Becca
año
Distiller.
escolar.
You probably have seen me before. I was the treasurer for the Board of Governors last year, and
Ella
Jake
fue la
Goodwin, who's with me
tesorera,
tonight, was the secretary. So now
ahora
I'm the
es
president. He's the vice
secretaria,
president
ahora
for
es presidente
the Board of Governors for our senior year.
por la Junta
So we
de
are very
Gobierno
happy to move into our
del
senior year this year,
del
and I don't think
último
as
año
a
de la
freshman
escuela.
we would have expected it to be this way, but we are trying to work with our administrators and teachers
Están
to make it
tratando de trabajar
a
con los
successful year for the
administradores
students,
y con los
that's our job
profesores.
as student government. So just going to give a couple things that we've done this year, and then Jake's going to take over
Ella
and finish.
quiere
So
hablar con
we started
respecto
off
a...
the year, I think, pretty great. We had a couple internet issues, but that's to be expected
Ellos
with
piensan que
online
han
learning and
empezado
everything.
bien, algunos
From what I have heard,
problemas
the
con
teachers,
el
the attendance has
internet.
actually been really good from what I hear.
Dicen
Only
que
about a
los
1% difference.
muchos
from
estudiantes
what
dicen
it
que
was
están yendo
in
bien con los
school. So we
profesores,
have had really good attendance, and almost every
han
single one
tenido
of the classes
buena,
I've been in has
han
had
estado presentes en mayoría de las
almost every single
clases,
student there. Every
todos
time,
los
which is really
estudiantes han
good.
estado ahí.
We've also had, you've probably heard some people were crashing our Google Meets, but
Hay
now
a veces que se
teachers have more
hacen,
like hosting privileges that they can use.
por ejemplo,
And as
cuando
we go,
se va la
teachers are gonna learn how to
computadora,
use the
pero ahora
technology a
la
lot better.
profesora
So
les
I
está
think it's going
ayudando
really
cómo,
well, but hopefully
cómo
that
volver.
having more hosting privileges will deter this from happening.
So
And so
van
we
a
won't see it
tratar de
again.
que
So
eso
I'm
no,
gonna leave it to Jake, and Jake's gonna take over.
no pase.
So as
Aquí
distance
está
learning started,
Jake
all GHS
Woodwing.
students were given a free Dell laptop to keep, which we're very grateful for, and so many more kids now have access to technology
Ahora
at
toda
home, which is great.
mayoría de los alumnos
We
tienen
are
la
looking for
tecnología en
ways to connect
casa.
with students over the internet. It's proving pretty difficult.
El internet
We
es un
are
poco
planning
difícil.
something related to that sometime in October, which will most likely be held virtually.
En
did something
octubre
similar
de
last
nuevo
year.
se va a hacer virtual.
So we're also
Ahora también
getting the club fair in works for sometime in October.
en
We're hoping
octubre un
that this will
club
get more
de
kids engaged with the
de
school,
FEA
especially freshmen.
para
We're
que
really
los
trying to
estudiantes se
promote
reúnan.
engagement. So, and lastly, the VOGM cheerleaders are working with an organization offering scholarship opportunities.
Están también
Students who
trabajando en la
register to vote
scholarship,
Their
las
school, there will
oportunidades
also be
de
an
scholarship.
opportunity to have parents and families register as well. And a school with the most registrations by election day will receive a $10,000 grant. And that's all I
Para
have for you
el
guys.
día de elección
Thank
están
you.
esperando
Thank you also very much.
en un gran.
Alice, would you mind if I ask a question?
Doctor Saad quiere hacer una pregunta.
Thank you. Jake or Rebecca, we're hearing
Jake or Rebecca.
From a lot of folks in terms of time in front of screen and
están,
the technology challenges.
Está, por ejemplo, el tiempo de estar enfrente de la computadora, el tiempo de las actividades. ¿Cómo pueden compartir algo con respecto a lo que están experimentando ustedes en la escuela? Bueno, ellos estaban, Rebeca han estado teniendo conversaciones con respecto a eso. Por ejemplo, para ella se le hace difícil estar sentada enfrente de la pantalla de la computadora. Termina cansada por tanto tiempo.
I think the times for the classes are actually like perfect. I know teachers are feeling slightly rushed. I'm in a lot of AP classes, so there is a time crunch a little bit with AP classes because we have to take those tests in May. But the teachers are like utilizing the flex time that we're given and either offering instruction
pero también tienen tiempo flexible,
or they're just either reiterating what we were already taught to students who may have been absent during that time. But I personally like the time. Jake can.
A ellos les gusta el tiempo que se está dando.
I also like the time.
Jake también le gusta el tiempo.
It does feel like we're not doing as much.
Se siente como que no están haciendo mucho como si estuviesen en el edificio. Pero las profesoras están trabajando. Ellos piensan que es un buen tiempo. Piensan que la tecnología, ¿cómo está?
It's been iffy like at times, but that's to be expected.
Right, la tecnología igual, o sea, está bien.
Question for the students.
How is your homework load or your independent workload?
¿Cómo es la tarea? ¿Cómo hacen las tareas independientemente?
Do you feel like it's more or less same?
¿Ustedes piensan que es más, menos, lo mismo?
I feel like it's I'm like Becca. I'm also taking mostly APs, so it seems like a bit more work, but I'm pretty sure that's just like in my honors class,
más
I'm not
trabajo,
really
pero al mismo tiempo
much homework. I just think that teachers are being very smart with.
Pero al mismo tiempo parece que está bien. Parece que las profesoras están distribuyendo bien el tiempo.
Like a good job. Like I wouldn't say my workload is too much.
Él piensa que su trabajo no es mucho.
But I think that's also because we have less time to do classwork.
Rebeca también piensa que tiene más tareas que el año anterior, pero supuestamente este año es un poquito, tiene que ser un poco más.
And now I have 2 hours less, so now I have 2 hours more time to do work than normal. So I think it balances out.
Está balanceado.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Are there any other questions that board member would like?
¿Otras preguntas que la Junta quiera preguntar? ¿Preguntas?
Seeing none. Dr. Are you finished?
Thank you, guys. Yes.
Gracias.
Thank you, guys.
So, as you know, as we talked about going into this, the pandemic and the research that we've had with the medical field, that we'll be reviewing that, particularly this week. We have a meeting on Friday with all of the medical folks.
Con todos
the timing would be right,
los
given,
doctores.
Labor Day and the possible surge in the numbers.
Están viendo cómo están los números.
As I did with the federal report on the states, and they were highlighting Connecticut.
Ellos están con respecto al reporte con respecto al número. Les digo que personalmente, hablando con los padres, hay padres que quieren que ven sus niños de regreso. Han estado mirando eso diariamente o si no semanalmente con los doctores. Han estado mirando el viernes
we're returning here towards the, middle to the end of October here.
Para ver en octubre.
I have with us tonight Kara and Kathy. I will have Kathy begin. Kathy O'Dowd.
Kathy O'Dowd es
not just us, but
la
by the
enfermera.
way, guys, she's been working with the non-pubs as well. And that has been because those youngsters have been in school or out of school. She's really
Ella está trabajando
learning
muy
the
dura,
both ends.
viendo los
Kathy.
niños que están bien, los que no están.
So before we talk about moving forward, I would like to just offer a brief review of where we've been and how we got to the decision to do the distance learning as a return to school. And
está viendo cómo las decisiones de aprendizaje a distancia y aprendizaje en la escuela.
In July, the governor
en julio, el gobernador sugirió que se puede regresar en el otoño. Pero
and there is a metrics that the state of Connecticut uses. It's 3 tiers that outlines what is a low risk for returning, what is moderate risk,
Connecticut tiene como una medida
and then what is high risk
para ver cuál es el riesgo grande, el riesgo más o menos. Ahorita como está calculado,
rolling average of positive cases. Now, when the state puts out that metrics, they're doing it on a county-wide level. However, we have had to look at just Danbury alone because of the uptick that we've had and our space constraints. So, in July, according to that metrics, the district would have been considered at low risk of transmission. And therefore,
ahorita estamos como bajo de transmisión.
To a full-time model. However, with our building constraints and the overcrowded conditions that we have, we did not feel that we could safely have everyone in the building at all times 5 days a week. And that is when Dr. Sal appealed to the state, to the governor, to have us move to a hybrid model, and that was our plan at the time. Then in early August, we started to see an uptick in the number of positive cases in Danbury.
En agosto los casos positivos está continuando. En el mediado de agosto tuvieron que ser.
So what the health department does is they look at cases, the number
Ellos
over
están
7
mirando
days,
los casos.
and that is averaged, and then based on a population of 100,000, and we get, excuse me, a percentage.
Para ver el
average
porcentaje.
cases a day. And Kara will speak to those, specific numbers, but
Kara va a hacer los números específicos. En ese momento no era bueno retornar, a las escuelas, por eso hicieron la recomendación de aprendizaje a distancia.
And Dr. Begg, who was the medical advisor for the city health
el consejero,
department.
el médico consejero han tomado las decisiones.
In the meantime,
Mientras
we still have an excellent partnership.
Hasta ahorita hay una excelente unión en compartir con todas las reuniones del distrito. Ellos hablan todos los días, quizás más. Están continuando revisando ahorita cómo se está considerado como un concierto, como un concern, o sea, como una pequeña preocupación.
With that incubation period of COVID being 2 to 14 days, it's being through contact tracing. We're seeing that there were large gatherings. People are not wearing masks. They are not social distancing. So we're still seeing some numbers of positive cases that are very concerning to us.
Distancia social, no hay mascarilla.
Many of them are children.
Y ahorita la mayoría de los casos son niños.
Elementary level, we're seeing
en el nivel elemental.
At the secondary level.
en el nivel
For that
segundo.
reason,
Por esa razón,
at this time,
a
we're
este
still very
tiempo,
concerned about being
todavía
able to
están
open with a hybrid
preocupados
model.
con respecto,
However, we'll continue
van a
to look at the
continuar
data, as Dr. Sal
habiendo
mentioned.
la
We are meeting
data,
on Friday.
van a reunirse el viernes.
Kathy, we lost your voice.
No se
If
la
you could hear
escucha.
me.
Se fue la voz.
Yeah, Kathy, we
You
lost.
lost me? Okay, hold
We
on.
got you back.
You got me back.
Y
Okay.
ahora está de regreso. Se fue
I'm
de
sorry, I don't know
volumen
where I
por un
left off,
rato.
so I'll just go back. We are prepared to open as far as a safe plan.
Están preparados en abrir como un plan de seguridad. Está habiendo un esfuerzo.
Mitigation strategies, ventilation's been addressed.
Ventilaciones ha sido hablado.
And arrows on the floor for safe distancing.
Las
We have
flechas
all the PPE that we
en
need.
el piso
We were very
tienen el
fortunate to find a
PPP.
vendor that enabled us to get everything that we need in
Ellos
a very
tienen
short period
todo
of
lo
time.
que
So we are prepared
necesitan
on
en
that
este
level as
periodo
well.
corto.
We lost your voice again.
Se fue su voz de nuevo. No se le escucha.
We lost your voice, Kathy.
Can you hear me now?
Sí,
Yeah.
se le escucha ahora.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm having some connection issues here. As I
Tenemos
said,
una
our issue now is
conexión.
the community transmission. So, I strongly encourage everyone to continue to wear your masks.
Por favor,
frequent
siempre
hand
les pide
washing.
que se utilicen las
Please
máscaras, se
avoid
laven
large
las
gatherings
manos
where you can't wear a mask and safety
cuando se van
distance,
hacia
because that's where
a
we're finding
reuniones.
the
Tengan
increased
mucho
cases that
cuidado,
we're seeing.
utilicen las máscaras.
And in terms of returning, we have a
en
very
cuestión de
detailed plan in
retornar,
place as to how we will address whether we have a possible case of COVID, whether we
van a
have
seguir
a
pensando,
case of
tienen
COVID.
que ver cómo están
We have looked
los
very
exámenes de COVID
closely at how we can manage it on the elementary and secondary
para ver
levels.
si es
It
que
will
se
be a little
puede
different just because of the
manejarlo
scheduling, and the ability to cohort at the
en
elementary
la
level
parte
will
elemental.
make things easier.
Si es en un nivel primero, un nivel segundo, todos están preparados, pero solamente estamos esperando cómo se está mirando los casos. Ella quiere agradecer a Kathy. Quiero agradecer porque ha trabajado mucho. Gracias, Kathy, por eso. Ella ha cubrido la mayoría de las cosas. Ahorita ella quiere decirle lo que está pasando ahorita.
14, a little over 14, which would, on the scale put us in the moderate level. Our numbers have stabilized since
los
August
números se han
21st.
estabilizado.
We've trended down a little bit, but we have not seen a consistent trend down.
Subió un
We're still
poquito,
seeing positivity rates between 5
pero
and 6%
se ha estabilizado.
consistently every week. So that's a concerning level for us. We're seeing community transmission.
Están viendo comunidades de transmisión.
We're still seeing
Ha
a lot of
sido
spread
seguimiento
through
y
small
sigue,
parties, family gatherings, things like
y
that.
sigue
So we really want to stress and say that this is still out there. We're really doing our
virus
best
sigue allí.
to do targeted testing and
Está
messaging.
tratando de
I think that people have been hearing
apuntar
this message over and over
los
again.
exámenes.
It's kind of background noise at this point. So I just want to urge you all to take it very seriously. So that way we can get
lo tomen todo esto
our numbers
serio
down and have
para ver
the
que
ability to
los
open
números se
safely.
bajen para que pronto podamos reabrir
that's all
las
I have.
escuelas. Eso es todo lo que ella tiene.
The board had asked for, some information.
La Junta
and
tiene una
I did,
información.
Kara. What I'm asked at the time is when you disaggregate the numbers, you do take out certain categories, correct? And then look at it through a different lens. So it's focusing in on our town
Cara,
folks. Is that
ustedes se
correct?
enfocan en diferentes
Yeah, so
números, ¿no?
I separated out for Danbury
Ella
residents.
separa
So
lo
when
que
I'm
son los
looking and I'm
residentes de
discussing
Danbury,
positivity rates and 7-day rolling averages, I'm talking
hablando
about Danbury residents, people with Danbury addresses.
los
So the pre-op and the nursing and all that is removed.
Some of that is if they are Danbury residents, it is.
si son residentes de Danbury,
Oh, sorry. If they're Danbury residents, some of that is included.
algunos de ellos están incluidos.
Testing through groups in areas where
Ellos
we know that there's a
están
lot of
apuntando
community spread. We are seeing higher
a ver
positivity
grupos donde
rates.
se
So when
puede
you incorporate the pre-op testing, just the routine
se
testing, that's when we still
puede
get that
contagiar o
5 and 6
el
positivity rate.
virus.
So I don't know, maybe the board may have some questions.
O donde
I
se
will
puede
just
propagar
stop
el
right
virus.
now.
So, okay. So the positivity rate is the people that have actually
El
been
rate
tested.
positivo que ha sido
And the
en los
hospitalizations
exámenes, que han
gone
hecho
down.
los exámenes.
Actual people who are admitted to the hospital.
People que están
So
admitidos
these
en,
people are not showing
en los hospitales.
symptoms. They are asymptomatic.
Estas personas son asintomáticas.
I can't hear you.
There's a combination of symptomatic and asymptomatic. So there's both. We're seeing
Están viendo los dos
that
casos, los asintomáticos y los no asintomáticos.
Okay. And what percentage
¿Y qué porcentaje
do we need to be in order for the children
necesitamos
to
estar
attend school?
para que los niños
Where do you
estén?
want that percentage rate to be?
¿Cuál es el porcentaje?
I can't hear you. Sorry.
There's a combination of all of the metrics. It's not just the
Esa
positivity rate. It's
combinación
That's the one that you're focused in on right now.
es la combinación del rate,
combination of all of them. So it's the
de la
7-day
cantidad.
rolling average, it's the positivity rate, and it's also whether our numbers are trending in the right direction.
So, están viendo si se van
all
al
of those things working together.
right direction, en la dirección correcta.
Kara, I have a question if Kathy's done.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Yep.
Kara, hospitalizations are down because I was looking at the state numbers and they look like they're up. In fact, the daily report today showed I think it was like 3 more hospitalizations. We're back up to like 70. Are our local hospitalizations down?
%.
At this point, yes.
Good. Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to check. That's really good news.
Y yo quería
The rest of it's bad, but
chequear.
that's good. Thank you.
Los otros, bueno,
So Kathy,
bueno,
one of
ahorita
the
es
things
bueno,
that
pero
we're-
los otros son
I think it was
malos, las otras
we're
cosas que
learning
se está
a
viendo.
lot going through this and the conversations we're having.
Las
These
conversaciones que se
indicators
está
and
teniendo.
one of the things that, for us anyway, we're challenged with the spacing. the
Para
social
todos
distance.
nosotros es el espacio, es un
In the
hecho.
moderate level, I think I had said to Kara the same question. We're on this scale.
¿En qué
And if,
parte, en qué
one of the things
parte
we
o
were
cómo,
looking at,
cómo
if
estamos,
we're
en qué,
tending on the bottom of this moderate level, which is
en qué nivel estamos?
the second category the state looks like.
Ellos también se
That's something
preguntan.
that would indicate to us that, although it's not as good as it may have been, in August, it might be appropriate for us to do look at the in-school learning. And I think that's on Friday, we're going to try to disaggregate through all of that. I will just set a seat out there for the entire board because we've been reading and I've been asking, talking, and
hablando
there's some merit to phasing things in
de,
as possibilities. There's also
hablando,
conversations from
hablando y conversando
our parents and others that
con los padres,
K1 and 2 and 3,
con los de kindergarten, primero, segundo y tercero.
I don't think you can have one size fits all here is what I'm saying.
Es lo que piensan, no vamos a tener que todos opinen lo mismo. Están tratando de tener la oportunidad de traer los niños más jóvenes.
But I thought they should give you at least a thumbnail sketch of what they're seeing as the professionals. And we'll have the medical doctors in with us on
Los
Friday.
Doctores médicos van a hablar, como se dice, el viernes, van a ver para ver qué decisiones se dan. Su meta era para octubre para octubre, el retorno de octubre, pero bueno, ahorita eso es lo que ellos están, en donde ellos están.
Gladys, that's all I, as the board members, have a question of the medical folks.
Are there any other questions?
¿Algunas preguntas?
Okay.
No.
Thank you both. We're moving on down the agenda. Action item A.
Elementos de acción. La letra A. Con la letra B.
I can hear you. I'm okay. Can you hear us? Okay. I'm going to move on.
Okay, yes.
Hear me? Okay. Thank you. I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approve the June 2020
que la Junta de Educación acepte para la segunda lectura política 2150, visita a la escuela.
I'm not sure if Gladys might be frozen, it looks like, so I'll just ask if there are any questions.
Si hay alguna pregunta.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Kate, seconded by are there Courtney, do you have anything to add to this motion?
No, thank you though, Gladys. This is just the year-end result.
Courtney, it's hard to hear you.
Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Ahora le escuchan.
Oh, no, Gladys, thank you. It's just the year-end results from the last fiscal year showing what funds we can carry over into our reserves as we had discussed at the last
¿Ella está hablando con respecto a las reservas?
So, thank you.
Okay. And is no questions from board members? Seeing none, Kate, would you do the roll call, please?
Roll call.
I'll start with Rachel Selesky, please.
Rachel Selesky.
Kate Canetta, aye. Gladys Cooper.
Gladys Cooper.
Lauren Daly.
Lauren Daly.
Aye.
Joseph De Silva.
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson.
Catherine Hodgson.
Aye.
Richard Janelli.
Aye.
Kathleen Molina. Albert Russo.
Aye.
Amy Spolino. Todos dicen sí.
Motion approved unanimously.
La moción está aceptada.
Thank you all very much. Action item B.
B. La letra D.
La
póliza de 1250. Que la Junta de Educación acepte para la segunda lectura y política de acción 2150 visitas a las escuelas según lo aceptado por el Comité Político 20 a 100. ¿Alguna pregunta con respecto a la moción?
Rachel Selesky.
Rachel Selesky.
Kate Canetta, aye. Gladys Cooper.
Gladys Cooper.
Aye.
Yes.
Lauren Daly.
Lauren Daly.
Aye.
Joe De Silva.
Joseph De Silva.
Catherine Hodgson.
Catherine Hodgson.
Aye.
Richard Janelli.
Rich Janelli. Kathleen Molina.
Kathy Molina.
Aye.
Aye.
Al Russo.
Albert Russo. Sorry.
Amy Spolino.
Amy Spolino.
Aye.
Sí.
10 ayes, motion carried.
Motion so carried. Thank you very much.
La moción
I'm
está
sorry, but
aceptada.
I didn't want to admit, I was just the superintendent on this motion. If you would like to add something, just stop me. I've seen it be going a little fast, so you guys can
Se
stop
está
me.
yendo un poco rápido, pero si no, por favor, que la pare.
Item C. Al Russo.
El política 5141.8, máscaras cubiertas faciales, que la Junta Educativa acepta para la segunda lectura y política de adaptación 5141.8, máscaras cubiertas faciales según lo aceptado por el Comité de las Políticas.
Al, seconded by Amy. Are there any questions concerning the motion?
Amy hace la moción.
One small thing.
Ella está haciendo una pregunta.
I thought we had this in the first paragraph that we would omit the last two words full time
the first paragraph, last two words, remove full-time. I would like this to be brought for a third reading, if possible.
Para tercera lectura.
Where's I saw including the teachers. I wish she could. Is Mr. Watson on?
Hi, Ms. Cooper. Yes, I am here. I'm sorry. Can we hear that adjustment again? I didn't hear that. I'm not.
So,
¿puede leer de nuevo?
The first paragraph.
La primera parte.
This policy pertains to students, faculty, staff, and visitors. It has been developed to fulfill the guiding principles contained in the framework for Connecticut schools, specifically to safeguard the health and safety of students and staff, and to allow all students the opportunity to return into classrooms, period. I'd like full-time to be omitted. That makes sense.
Que la Junta no están revisando.
Yes, I mean, is that the adjustment is that the only adjustment that needs to be made that we're seeing?
¿Y rectificar eso o?
Okay, can we approve with the understanding that we will make that adjustment if
ellos van a hacer
I think so.
Lo que se tiene que arreglar en esa moción.
It's applicable in every case.
Es aplicado en cada caso.
Clarifies it.
Yeah, I don't want it to be taken out of context.
Right. It doesn't change it. So I would agree.
So no cree que cambie, pero
Point of order, Madam Chair, do we need an amendment for that, or can we just do that based on the understanding we're doing it?
La comprensión de lo que se está haciendo. Están discutiendo con respecto a esta moción.
Madam Chair, I would say it's more a clarifying change than anything. It's not changing the content, just a clarification amendment. So I would just make it now.
Okay. So we can go ahead and approve it tonight without bringing it to a third reading.
Van a seguir con la tercera parte.
I'm understanding right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, motion. Okay. Kate, did you do roll call? I don't forget.
Sure, I'll do that now. Rachel Chalesky. Kate Canetta, aye. Gladys Cooper.
Aye.
Lauren Daly.
Aye. This is C.
Joe De Silva.
Just the same. This is C.
Catherine Ashton.
Ashton.
Richard
C.
Janelli.
Richard Janelli.
Kathy Molinaro.
Kathy Molinero.
Al
Yes.
Russo.
Albert Russo. Yes.
Amy Spallina.
Amy Spallina. Yes.
That's 10.
Sí.
Thank you.
Yes.
Action item D, Rachel.
La política
I move that the Board of Education accept
de
reading as
suspensión de
amended and
emergencia de la
adoption,
política durante la
emergency suspension of
pandemia, que la Junta de Educación acepte para la segunda lectura y adopción suspensión de emergencia de la política durante pandemia aceptada por el Comité de Políticas 20102. ¿Alguna pregunta para hacer esta moción?
Kate, can we have roll call, please?
Rachel Chalesky.
Richard Chalesky.
Canetta, aye. Gladys Cooper.
Gladys Cooper.
Lauren Daly.
Lauren Daly. This is
Joe De
C.
Silva.
Joseph Silva. This is C.
Catherine Hodgson.
Catherine Hodgson.
Rich
C.
Janelli.
Rich Janelli.
Kathy
C.
Molinaro.
Kathy Molinero.
Al Russo.
C. Albert Russo.
Amy
C.
Spallina.
M. Spallino.
Motion carries unanimously.
La moción está cargada.
We're going to move on to policy E.
La policy E. La moción dice que la Junta de Educación acepta para la segunda lectura y la política de adopción 6114482 medidas de emergencia COVID como aceptado por el Comité de Políticas
Policy made by
20103.
Kate, second by Joe. And the corrections and the question concern is follows. Thank you all for taking the opportunity.
Gracias por tener esta oportunidad.
for this reading.
Por esta lectura. Espero que todas las oportunidades vayan a través de esto. Van a hacer
Rachel
robo call. Richard Selesky, Kate Caneda, Gladys Cooper, sí, Lori Daly, sí, Joseph De Silva, sí, Kathy sí, Rich Janelli, sí, Kathy Molinero, sí, Alba Russo, sí,
Amy Spallino.
Amy Spallino, sí.
Motion carries unanimously.
La moción está cargada. O aceptada.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Gracias, la moción.
May I, before we continue, Gladys, may I just make a comment?
Ella quiere hacer un comentario.
There's a lot of extra noise tonight. I don't know if someone has a phone and a computer on, but it's like
Hay
there's just a
muchas
lot of
nociones,
feedback,
no
but
sé,
maybe it's me, maybe
no
it's
sé, no sé, hay muchas nociones, muchos ruidos.
It's not just you, Amy.
Es no solamente Amy, es casi todos escuchan esa.
I thought the TV was on in the living room. I kept hearing this noise, and I know my TV was not on in the living room.
Ellos pensaban que la televisión estaba prendida porque hay mucha ruido en la parte así de atrás. ¿Estamos listos? El informe del superintendente. ¿Quiere hacer el reporte?
Courtney, I'll start if you'd like.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Okay.
Okay. So Dr. Sal, Courtney, and I are both going to speak.
So, van a hablar.
So one, I just wanted to update the board on our AIS
Quieren
magnet school
darle la
enrollment.
información a
The
la
difference
Junta
between October 1st, 2019
en octubre
and to
1st.
date where we are with enrollment. And then Courtney is going to help me and help us clarify so that we can understand the impact that has on us
para
financially.
comprender el
So
impacto.
last year we had, as of October 1st, we had 504 students
Año pasado
at
tenían como
in our, from our,
estudiantes.
I'm sorry, we had 99 students from our partner towns at AIS and 34 students from our non-partner student.
No former student, no estudiantes former.
And for a total of 133 kids last year. And this year, we are down in our partner towns, partner school districts from 99 to 81, and our non-partner districts from 34 to 33. So for a total difference of negative 19. So we're down 19 students
es
from
como
the
19
2019 school year to
estudiantes que
2020-2021.
So 2020-2021. 2020 el año
Dr.
21.
Sal is working with the other superintendents
Están
to make sure
trabajando con
those
los
partner
otros
districts still honor their
superintendentes
commitment to pay for those students.
para ver
Although
que
those families have chosen to
para esa
remain back at
familia
their home schools. As you might imagine, our neighboring towns or our partner towns
los
are
vecinos
still in school.
de la ciudad
We are only the only school in the area that is in the hybrid. I'm sorry, in virtual learning, distance learning. And so a lot of those families have chosen to keep their kids in their home school district and have chosen not to send them to AIS this year. And so certainly, Dr. Sal, as you might imagine, was concerned about the financial impact and had Courtney and I both investigate and investigate where we are. And so I provided some data enrollment updates to Courtney, and then she began to further investigate what this meant locally, between us and the towns, and then look further into how we might be able to get some relief from the state. Courtney.
O el estado.
Yeah, so as Kevin mentioned, that decline related to the virus.
El decline, o sea, el bajo de asistencia.
It's very difficult to hear you.
I'm sorry.
Es difícil escucharte.
Is that better? Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you, Courtney.
A little bit.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Lo siento, no sé qué está pasando.
So basically, the state reimburses us about $7,700 per pupil. So we, with that loss in enrollment, we would lose about $86,000 from the state. So Dr. Sal did ask that we draft a letter that we sent to our legislators asking us to keep us whole in continue with what we had for fiscal year 1920's appropriation so that we don't lose that funding. And also, as Kevin mentioned, working with the partner districts because there's a small portion that they contribute on behalf of their students for tuition. And we're asking them to continue to maintain that commitment.
Están preguntando para que sigan con ese compromiso.
I think at this point, without the tuition, we're about roughly
a este
just under
punto,
$90,000 delta, correct?
¿Cómo está?
That's correct, yep, about 86,000, yeah.
86,000.
I just want to make the board aware I was concerned it was be much greater. But that's where we are right now.
Supuestamente
And
tiene
we
que
can't
haber
just
más
admit
grande,
our
pero es lo
students.
que están
We still
ahorita.
have to stay with our split,
Los estudiantes tienen que estar ahí
which
todavía con esa
in
separación.
70-30. We're usually 60-40, but so we can only admit
Están hablando de números.
students that are non-contributing students, but everything is done as of October 1. So this
Todo
is
está
just
hasta
rough numbers,
octubre primero.
unofficial until October 1.
Esto es
I did want to make you
oficial
aware of that.
hasta en octubre primero.
District enrollment with,
El enrollment del distrito
and connectivity.
del,
We have
de los que están atentos.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm here, Dr.
Hola.
Sabel. So I'll share the district enrollment. Right now, overall, we have 11,907 students.
So, estos son de los enrollments, o sea, los estudiantes que están dentro
as compared to October 1st of last year,
de las
we were at
escuelas
11,927. So that's a difference of 20 minus 20 kids.
Son menos 20 niños, so esa es la diferencia.
The IC is the kindergarten enrollment. Typically, we shoot for about 920.
Kindergarten enrollment, registración de los niños de jardín.
Right now, we're at 829.
829.
So 829. But overall, we believe that's, people are maybe holding their kids back this year.
Ellos piensan que los niños, que de repente los niños, los padres no quieren inscribirlos, al menos por este año, de repente el próximo año. Este año, por ejemplo, en este tiempo, ellos tienen 100 alumnos más en la escuela media. Los números oficiales van a estar en octubre primero.
And these numbers include all of our kids that are currently enrolling. So they were as of 2 o'clock this afternoon. So they also include anybody who
en la registración,
just
en la
filled out an
inscripción.
enrollment today.
Y eso es de la inscripción para
The board
ahora.
has been concerned about the influx. We have not seen that. Monica, I just
We have not seen that.
No hemos estado viendo eso.
Again, we're just
De
watching,
nuevo, ellos están mirando
on the national level,
el
when borders start
nivel
to open and more
nacional,
travel starts to happen, we
todas las cosas
anticipate
que
that we'll
están,
see
viajes
a little bit of
están
surge
abriéndose,
as well. So,
están viendo todo eso.
with the distance learning, I
Con el
have
aprendizaje a
been meeting with
distancia,
the
han
state
tenido
with
reuniones
their
con el
Everybody
Estado.
Learns initiative. At the end of the week, they are supposed
Al
to be
fin de la
sending
semana están
the vouchers for
mandando
Comcast.
para los vouchers
The
de
program
Comcast.
is such that we will provide a voucher number to families who are in need
Los
of
vouchers
internet.
van a
Comcast
proveer
will provide high-speed internet to them for 1 year with the voucher.
por un año el voucher.
And I anticipate that next week we will be
En la próxima
able to start
semana,
rolling that out. So I'm
de
very excited
repente se
about
está
that.
empezando a hacer
Dan
eso.
and I are going to work together to have a kind of help desk at the Face
Van a
Center so that we can
trabajar
help families navigate and any problems that they
para
have
que
with
vayan a
connectivity.
ayudarles cómo navegar.
The state has been more than willing. They said if any family really runs into an issue,
Si ellos tienen
maybe they don't quite
un
qualify
hecho
under
con
Comcast
respecto al
rules,
internet,
things like that, just to reach out to them.
ellos que
They're really
búsquenlo
pushing for
para que si tienen
everybody to have
preguntas
strong connectivity, and they said they
con
would
respecto a la
work with us
conectividad, que
to help
trabaje con
families
ellos.
as well. So that should be coming next week.
Eso va a venir la próxima semana.
I'm really excited about that.
Y ellos están preparados para
On
eso.
attendance.
Yep.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to report we're very positive trends with our attendance as reported by the students and the teachers that you heard anecdotally from. Our attendance is exactly in line with where it was last year. In fact, it was up 0.2% from this time last year. One of the things that I spoke about last board meeting was the increased reporting that we're doing for the state in tracking disconnected students, as they're calling it. So each week, it's public data. We are collecting the number of students in each instructional model, which for us is obviously all fully remote at all grade levels, and including a reporting number for including a reporting number for students who are disconnected that are fully remote. Last year they had across the state a trend that was finding that students who were fully remote and just kind of fell off from the district and did not report it at all. So they are trying to prevent that from happening. So each school is actually tracking students who are not reporting in. So have a week that is completely absent. The administrators, school counselors, teachers are all following up with those families to ensure that everybody knows where they are. So our report from last week of disconnected students was 121. That's across all school buildings. So that's about 1%.
So es un porcentaje.
And so, considering our population, it is also being so large. 121 is not an incredibly high number. In addition, the amount of effort that's being done by the school level to follow these families is absolutely tremendous. It is also not unlike other school years where students have dropped or moved out of the district, and we are looking for them.
Ellos están viendo los niños que fueron fuera del distrito y están viendo dónde están y viendo con respecto al distrito.
I have a question.
Ellos tienen una pregunta.
Across the schools, is there a big
a través de la escuela
difference, or is it pretty even across all schools? Is it concentrated in
¿Está
one?
igual o está desigual a través de todas las escuelas? Hay algunas escuelas que tienen números altos. Los de middle school, escuela media están casi lo mismo. Los últimos 8 niños siguiendo moviéndose en diferentes áreas. Ella dice que está
Thanks, Kara.
all the spread significa que está todo casi bien.
Let me just start with Steve Osborne Ellsworth. I will say the summit, that's still in negotiations, and we should be hearing more in
Van a escuchar más pronto con respecto con el reporte. Negociaciones con lenguaje.
Still very helpful. The Osborne Ellsworth.
Osborne Ellsworth, it's me in Danbury.
An Osborne project. Do you have anything on that to update the board, Courtney?
Yeah, we're on track. There were, I think, 7 architects invited, and I think 4 did the walkthrough, and they've selected an architect. So we're on track with the development.
Están siguiendo
still,
lo que están diciendo los arquitectos.
Which would be next year. So,
ellos piensan que se va a abrir el próximo año.
We're looking forward to having another update at the next board meeting.
De repente vamos a tener otra información al momento en la próxima reunión.
Si
no hay otra pregunta, se mueven para
Yeah, so Granville is coming along. My last
está
conversation with
viniendo,
the builder, they hope
Granville
to
está viniendo,
complete the project within
se está
around the
yendo
first
bien el
week of
proyecto,
October. And
en
then it will
octubre,
be the final approvals and building permits
las
from the city.
pruebas finales,
Our timeline is hopefully matching up with the return for
el tiempo
students to come into
limitado,
the building.
están
And as
viendo.
soon as we are able to do a walkthrough, we will certainly reach out to you and let you know. But overall, things are progressing along.
Todo
It is
está,
taking a little bit longer than
todas las cosas
anticipated.
están
There have
progresando.
definitely been some hurdles that the builder has run into. Things like getting the windows in supply. The
Están
factory we
viendo
had
las
originally ordered from was
ventanas,
shut down due to COVID. Then there's a delay with something else, and I think we're on our third order. But things are installed, they're
están
moving
viendo,
along,
las
and it's
cosas
really
están
a lot of the
puestas, se
finishing
están
touches at this
moviendo
point in
poco
time.
a poco.
And just a big
Esperamos
thank
que
you to
esté todo listo
Rich
en tiempo.
Delbert, Rich Torres. They have been instrumental in kind of advising on different safety features, security features. Our tech
Seguridad,
team, Gina and Lack, have been wonderful in making sure that all of our bandwidth and all of that has been set up. So it's truly a team effort. And Courtney and Kim, all of their, whether it's food services or the legal nature of things, it truly is a team effort. So I just thank this board. I'm really excited about the opportunity to have officially an early childhood center, and I think it'll be wonderful for our kids.
I'm not sure
muy
with
contenta de
COVID,
tener
but at some point we could
un
probably
center.
take a tour of the board members in small groups. I think
Could even maybe do a video or a picture.
Quieren hacer un video o algo.
So thank you, Kelly, very much.
Thank you, gracias, Kelly.
We weren't at the PTO meeting because we had negotiations that night, but
So
I know a few board members were there. But Kevin, would you want to update the rest of the board on that?
Sure. So on Friday, September 11th, we and I met with the new citywide PTO president, Tim Maroney, and his team. At that time, he had shared just under 40 Q&As, questions and answers that parents were seeking and wanted clarification on. We had taken those questions, put them in a Google Doc. The cabinet and I and other members of the district began to answer them. And we'll share them.
Van a tratar de responder eso y van a tratar de compartir para ponerlo en la website.
But some of the highlights from that evening in terms of the questions, you'll note this evening that you may have heard some feedback about some of those questions this evening because we incorporated them immediately and began to try to find ways to make sure we were answering those questions. And in many ways, I feel like the feedback from these in-person citywide PTO meetings are really a reflection of the questions that all of our parents have. And so some of the questions that resonated from the evening, can we have our kids engaged in more online learning? Some families were saying that there wasn't enough time attributed to online learning. It's also important for me to pause and just say the families and the PTO members and representatives applauded the opening of online learning in our first couple of weeks of school, and talk about how well the launch of it was during the first couple of weeks, which was certainly well received when I brought that information back to the team. And hopefully all of our teachers are hearing this as well, our principals are hearing this as well. There was also a question, a request, can the district take a closer look to make sure we are fully engaging all students on Wednesdays? And so that's something we've also taken into consideration, and we'll begin to, as we continue to get better at our delivery, we'll be looking at all of these things. And then there were questions that evening about how is the decision made to return to schools. And so you heard some feedback this evening officially from
cómo se hacen las decisiones para regresar a las escuelas.
Along with Dr. Sal. And then there was also a question, is it true that we will require a vaccine before we return?
También preguntaron si es que se va a hacer
that question
si va a ser uno de los requirements para que regresen a la escuela que los niños se vacunen.
We were in negotiations that evening, so
Han
all of us
estado
were
en
not able to
negociaciones
attend. But this question in particular required some
para responder
clarification,
estas
and I imagine
preguntas.
if it required clarification from the people in attendance, it probably required clarification from people in the community.
Quieren clarificaciones con respecto a las preguntas para la comunidad.
Letter that went out on Friday, but I think it's also important to just further clarify here this evening.
Esta noche te han querido clarificar
so
esto.
it was apparent that evening, quite frankly, that There was a need to address any misconceptions that may have existed.
Es necesario a veces
So over the summer,
mencionar
due to our
todo
school
esto.
space issues, the district appealed to the state to have in-person learning in the hybrid model at a maximum of 50% capacity.
So,
And
siguen
then,
discutiendo
our
con
hope
respecto
and
a
plan is, not our hope, but our plan is when we return to in-person learning, it will be in a hybrid model.
el
And
aprendizaje
until the board of
personal
ed
o
is
el
advised
aprendizaje
by
a
the district
distancia,
medical advisors and the state and local
se
health
están
officials
viendo
that
con
it's
los,
safe to return to full
los
in-person
consejeros
learning,
médicos.
we will remain, when we do go back to school in hybrid, when we do go back to school in in-person learning, it will be in hybrid until local health
Cuando se
officials, etc.,
regrese
tell us that it's safe for
en el
100%
aprendizaje
capacity. All kids
personal,
can return back
todavía
to
van a
school.
regresar como
So I just want to
en el
provide
programa
that
de hybrid.
clarification for the community. I hope that's
Esa es
clear.
la clarificación
Because there
con
was
la
some
comunidad.
confusion that evening. There were several questions in the Q&A document. I guess
Hubo
I don't
muchas
know if I mentioned
preguntas en
it or
esa
Dr. Sal had
reunión
mentioned in the
del día
previous
viernes.
board meeting that we would need a vaccine before we can fully return to school. And it's not that clear cut.
Algunas preguntas no se pueden aclarar todavía, como por ejemplo la de la vacuna.
In the town and the local health officials, Carol Prunty, who I believe is still on this call, say it is safe to return back in hybrid, we will do so, and we will remain in that model.
Van a seguir en ese
and go back
modelo
to 100% in-person learning when the health advisors tell us that it's safe to do so.
cuando y se va a regresar al 100% cuando los
that
consejeros
evening was a
médicos
great evening,
no
quite
nos digan.
frankly. It was great, number one, to see parents and see folks in person again. We sat socially distanced at the
Fue grandioso ver a los
building
padres
in
de
the parking
nuevo
lot
cara a
here
cara
in Danbury. There was probably 20 to 25
aquí en Danbury.
citywide, PTO representatives from the city.
Siempre como
And again,
25
many of the questions
representantes
that we
del
heard
PTO
from our parents this evening mirrored
con
what
los
we
padres
heard
de
that
esta noche.
evening on that Monday night.
En ese
So, look forward to seeing them again next month.
lunes.
But
También
that's
está
kind of an
buscando para
overview
verlos
of
el próximo mes
the meeting on the 14th. And as
en
you
la
can see,
reunión del 14.
many of the responses and presentations for this evening was in direct response to what we heard that evening.
Todas las respuestas han sido respondidas de lo que se ha escuchado en esta
The
reunión.
next area has been Yeoman Task Force and her department to come through accommodations.
El superintendente también están viendo las comodidades.
So, as we sort of start to think about a return to a hybrid model where there will be students in the buildings, one of the
Han
things
estado pensando como
one
el
of
hybrid modo.
the valleys we've had to cross is what happens to those of our employees
¿Qué
who have
pasa con
serious
los,
health conditions that
con los
preclude them from
trabajadores que
being able
tienen
to report to
condiciones
in-person teaching or work
y
of
con
some
las
kind?
personas que tienen que
We
regresar
had
al trabajo?
requests for accommodation from over
Han tenido
125 people,
bastantes
and the way the process works
preguntas
is
para
for them
la
to provide
acomodación
medical support of a
de
serious
esos
health
empleados.
condition to my office. And then each one of those 125 people has had at least one, sometimes more than one, in-person live meeting with either myself or with Jen Gonzalez to talk about the scope and nature of the condition and to start to explore what kinds of accommodations we could provide as the employer that would enable these people to return to full duty. So those conversations have been ongoing. In some cases, we've sought additional medical information. In some cases, it's just been a dialogue back and forth. And the accommodations, to give you some idea, range anywhere from additional PPE or plexiglass or a room assignment to complete work from home model. So each one of these requires kind of individual conversation, individual attention, and the goal is to find the sweet spot of the accommodation that we can provide without an undue hardship. So we're rounding the bend. We've got kind of a handful of them left, mostly specials teachers, but also a handful of others that we're just making our way through the last ones now. So what that means then is with that list, armed with that information, then I transition to what is this going to look like if we have staff who need to work from home. And so as a team, we've been working with elementary organizers, planners, principals. We've been working with middle school principals as a group, and we've been working with the high school on what a modified model for those staff members.
¿Qué modificación se puede hacer con esos empleados?
En adición, han
trabajado
what kinds of accommodations we can put in terms of physical changes, physical space, provision of supplies. That also involved talking with Kathy O'Dowd at length. on each of these individual cases. So I'm happy to say we're coming to the end. I will say from my perspective, it has been wonderful to meet individually with so many of these people. It's really given me a good idea of what people are struggling with, what's going well, what's not going well. I will tell you that uniformly, all of them start with a big smile. And when I say, how's it going? They all say, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. It's just from our most junior folks to our most veteran people across all bargaining units. I think people have really dug in to make this successful, to sort of learn and make changes from the spring. And so that's been a really good window for me and for my team to see kind of how people are handling all this out in the field. So that's been great. What's on the horizon for us? I believe I've mentioned for you before two real pressure points we're going to have. One is that if you read the newspaper at all, you see that surrounding districts are having trouble attracting, retaining, and keeping substitutes. We are not going to be alone in that. We are trying right now to kind of keep our toe in the water with them, but because we aren't really using any of them, they're kind of slipping away. So we're trying to kind of keep them engaged. We're trying to put together some training, particularly on the technology that we're using, so that they will have something some arrows in their quiver when they come on board finally. So that's one big concern, and we're going to continue to kind of look at options for what substituting might look like for us. The other big challenge that I think we may face is we've seen some folks request the intermittent leave for childcare purposes under the Families First Coronavirus Act. That means, in kind of easy terms, if I have children in my district, in my house, that are distance learning Monday and Tuesday, and they're young children for whom I have no other child care, I can request under the Families First Coronavirus Act a leave of absence to care for those children. It's at pretty reduced pay, and it's for a limited period of time, but it's designed as kind of a stopgap until people can find an alternative. We haven't seen a lot of those yet, but I think we will as we continue to march toward the hybrid model. And that's going to create some real challenges for us in terms of staffing. Those are the two areas that kind of keep me awake at night as we're just finalizing the accommodations process and moving to this other really significant staff issue for us. But I'm confident as we usually do, we'll figure something out.
Están confidentes que van a trabajar y ver qué se puede hacer. Elementary level, the need is somewhere about 72 faculty, and we have accommodations to make, but we have to make other selections, obviously. And I think the point we've made to the board, and I would like you to hear, when we started in September, we kept the assigned teachers. This, what we're speaking to for those online learners, which exceed 4,000, we'll probably have a different teacher.
Están viendo cómo hacer con los profesores.
I don't see any change in that at this point. It's been a yeoman task to try to line them up. And with the going back and forth, it just further exacerbates our challenges. And,
los desafíos.
As Kim says, we're working through it, but
si se está trabajando, si se trabaja o no.
To say the least, because of the size of the district. So,
es el tamaño del distrito.
Gracias.
¿Tienen otras preguntas?
Go ahead, Joe.
I don't know whether this is for Kim, for Dr. Sal. Maybe this is just a crazy notion. In terms of the problems with subs, and I can imagine that it's going to be an enormous problem for everybody, because we ask our subs to do a lot and they don't get paid a lot, and there's a lot of challenges this year. I know our schools all have building subs. Would it be a solution? Would it be possible? Would it help if we added a second building sub in some of our, our buildings, or a third if
pueden
you're
poner
high
los
schoolers?
sustitutos en
I don't know
otros
whether
edificios.
the model works, the costs work. But maybe that's a way to get somebody in.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, that's one that we're looking at, not just for kind of incidental subs, but also if we have to cobble together for these intermittent leave. We want to try to have the same person in if we can. The high school, I want to say, has 3 or 4 building subs and a whole cadre of interns that we also use for that in that capacity. The middle schools, at least Rogers Park, I know is going to have some of these IU interns as well. And I do think we have looked at that model and will continue to do so, putting in some more at the elementary level, because we're certainly going to be able to do this. going to be a question of finding and retaining. So if you know anybody,
es la pregunta de mantener.
Excellent, yeah. Thank you.
I did just mention I was asked to produce a document for the board, and I have a draft for you. And also, we're hoping at the next meeting, Kara's and her team who have just been. I just can't tell you the work that they're doing. I'm just so proud of them. We're going to do a presentation on the deal for us, and it'll take some time, but she's working on that for the next meeting. But that's all I have at this point.
Eso es lo que tiene a este momento.
Then, Madam Chairman, do you want me to move into the CIC?
¿Quiere que se mueva el CIC a la discusión de actualización atlética?
Questions from community members, and you've been reading the papers. I have sent a letter I'll let Chip talk about it today. But Chip, would you update the board what's going on with the CIC, particularly?
Sí, van a hablar con respecto a eso.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sal.
Gracias, Dr. Sal.
Good evening, board.
Buenas noches.
It's been quite interesting from a high school athletic standpoint for us.
La escuela secundaria atlética.
Along the newspaper, the governor, everybody up to the governor, his right-hand person, the DPH, all talking about football.
Todos están hablando con respecto al
football in the state of Connecticut has been canceled as we know it for the fall.
Sido cancelado para el otoño.
Movement right now to
hay un movimiento que se está dando para tratar para que haya fútbol en primavera. Fútbol por ahora.
What's called 7v7, which is a low risk, immediate risk activity with games. There's really no contact involved with that, but it would give our coaches and kids the opportunity to remain with having some instruction and keeping moving forward.
Para ver si se puede seguir hacia adelante en todos los programas de fútbol. De acuerdo con los otros deportes, en otros reportes todos se sigue moviendo.
In August,
en agosto se tenía que cerrar todos los programas atléticos, pero ahora le han dado se puede retornar septiembre, desde septiembre 11. Se están entrenando atléticos. Esta es la primera semana que se tiene que entrenar a los atletas con todo el grupo total. Si el grupo está trabajando, se están viendo que se tiene una distancia social. Para ver las máscaras, es ver a los niños con las máscaras puestas.
We're scheduled. We follow what's called CIAC guidance. Working closely with Kathy and Kara on that. So we follow exactly what they're telling us. We're allowed this week to scrimmage, which is Saturday. We play. We're going to be playing games in what's called regions. So we're going to play in a small region instead of playing across the county in 18 schools. We reduced that to 5. In the event there's a issue with COVID, we can contact trace much quicker. All schedules have been reduced.
Todo el horario ha sido reducido.
This year they're playing
60 juegos, ahora este año está jugando 10.
Starting all the fall games in the regular season October 1st. It will go about approximately 5 weeks. There is questions with the winter programs. We don't know how that's going to unfold. But for this point, we're kind of going at a nice steady pace. We just knock on wood every day, and we are blessed every single day that kids get an opportunity to be out there.
Para ver si hay oportunidades para que los niños salgan y hagan deportes.
Thank you, Chip.
I just have one question for Chip.
¿Tienen una pregunta?
If football moves to spring, what does that mean for other spring sports that they're
So,
going
si
to be using
fútbol
the field,
se mueve
where
para
would
primavera,
other sports be using?
Well, the idea, Kathy, behind that, that's been part
so,
of
¿qué es con
the
respecto
debate.
a otros
But
deportes?
what they would like to do with football is place it in what's called an inner season. It would start in late February and
So,
end,
están viendo, van a empezar en febrero,
and end in April. And the
a
idea was
fines
to push
o
back the spring
abril.
activities about 2 weeks. So it would
Y
not
después
impact
de
any of the
eso,
spring activities.
actividades de
Other than just
primavera.
moving some things around to make it equal.
Great.
Están tratando de
That would be
hacerlo
great.
igual.
Thank you.
Chip, I have a question. About how many football players play another sport? Do we know the answer to that? Or specifically play a spring sport?
In our program, we probably have about 50
¿Cuántos
to
jugadoras juegan en el
60%
fútbol?
playing other sports. The remaining kids are active. They condition year round with for sure training and do the whole thing. But about 60% of those kids will play in others.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Chip. If there's no other questions, Madam Chairman, I can move
A ver,
facilities,
facilidades,
information. Is that
informaciones.
okay? Okay. Courtney? Quickly.
Sure, yeah, I'll be brief. So we've gone through all of the building reentry safety plans. As we mentioned in the last board meeting, with each of the buildings, we're in the process of establishing a safety committee for the administrative.
Comité de seguridad.
And staff is in the buildings. We have administrators, the custodial staff, the safety advocates, and teachers have been invited to return back to the building for this week.
Todos los empleados, mayoría de los empleados están autorizados a regresar al edificio.
And as Kim mentioned, thanks to her team's efforts at working with Rich and making accommodations to the staff people, from what we hear feedback are.
Como Kim mencionó, se está viendo esa modificación para algunos empleados que necesitan esa acomodación. Están tratando de visitar también a los edificios para ver si es parcial el regreso o es full. So
that's a brief facility update. And then in addition, Dr. Janelli asked that I put together for you a spending update on our COVID-related or pandemic-related spending. And that's,
también Dr.
I'm not going to pull it up on the screen now. You have that in your
viendo
board packet. And unless somebody would like me to when we go through the Q&A, but broadly speaking, it's how I normally have been presenting things to you, which shows on the top we're showing the expenses, which is the projected expenses, so it's about $7 million, and on the bottom we're showing the resources, which are the different funding streams associated with our coronavirus-related spending. And so what this is it doesn't include the alliance money, so you'll recall before we shared with you like upgraded funding that looked at what we were going to be spending overall for the whole budget this year. And Rich asked that I just focus for this purpose on the coronavirus spending and to break it down.
Ellos han gastado con respecto al coronavirus,
last year, and then what we
el virus de corona.
projected to spend this year. In categories of,
año con las categorías
social emotional supports,
social emotional support, la parte social y emocional, el soporte que se tiene que dar.
Custodial staff, etc. So, I just paused to see if anybody wants me to pull that up.
Quieren ver si hay preguntas.
Just a quick question, Courtney, and it's just a point of clarification. Under the adhering to health category, I noticed that the total is 700,110. Sorry, 10,898. But there's 10,000 listed for 1 year, and then the full amount is listed for the 2021 school year. Is that just a?
I corrected that, and I'll have Kara send that around.
¿Han corregido esa cantidad?
Yeah, the total is correct. It's 710,
el total es correcto, pero 2021 tiene que ser 700.
I meant to mention that.
ellos han modificado
So what we're doing
olvidaron
this
de
time, I
mencionar.
think we sent you a copy of a letter. We are going to ask for some backup funding. There was a grant that was put out that
dinero
was miscommunicated to all the districts, not just us. And
no solamente fue una descomunicación para todos los distritos, no solamente para nosotros.
Are not going to be reimbursable, therefore leaving resources for some of the districts like ours that should be entitled to more. I also want the board just to think through.
También quiere que la Junta piense a través de los trabajadores de la cafetería y de los bus drivers, de los que manejan el bus. Tienen que ver con respecto, también un poco más cerca con respecto a eso. Para ver
con respecto a eso.
Yeah, Dr. Salomon, and I just wanted to add one brief thing. This doesn't include anything unanticipated, right? So this is just what we know as of today.
Eso es lo que ahorita se sabe hasta ahora.
Kim mentioned the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This doesn't include a cost estimate associated with that. This is assuming that with our existing staff, we'll be able to accommodate that. So as those, new situations arise and we get more information, we'll
nuevas noticias lleguen, qué es lo que se va a cambiar. Eso es lo que ahorita se ve ahorita. No incluye el costo de otras familias. Ellas están alimentando a la familia. Y están manteniendo a los trabajadores. Están alimentando menos familias que más familias cuando los niños están en clase.
Would I be correct in this, in concluding, this is a pretty good summary of the new things we approved in June that we weren't thinking about in February. It really summarizes in this document.
Todo esto es como un resumen de todo lo que se ha hecho desde junio hasta agosto hasta ahora en estos momentos.
State coronavirus relief fund that Dr. Sal just mentioned that may be adjusted upwards if it turns out we have additional sub needs, things like that. The city reserve money that we
La ciudad reserva dinero para cualquier emergencia. Esos son los gran que se carga que ha sido anteriormente. Se está gastando en un tiempo y de acuerdo a las actividades.
In lieu of some of the things we were intending to do in February, we're now spending this money on that stuff.
Lo que supuestamente se gastaba en febrero se está haciendo ahora. Sí, eso es correcto. En base a lo que se necesita, eso es lo que se hemos estado gastando. Por ejemplo, se están haciendo para los niños especiales, se tienen que ser gastos con respecto a eso.
Yes, go ahead, Rachel.
Courtney, this is kind of a little off topic here, but speaking of school lunch, did anything change? We had 3 schools that were not receiving the free lunches.
Hay 3 escuelas que no están recibiendo school lunches, almuerzos en las escuelas. Están en el proceso, están colectando información. Están viendo la aprobación para el PPE para ver otro reporte.
Gives us a little more flexibility.
Tienen que dar un poco de flexibilidad.
Thank you, Gladys.
Before I do my personal report, do we have any committee that would like to report tonight?
¿Hay un comité que alguien que quiera hablar?
Rachel and Kate, you representative from the board. Do you have anything additional that you want to share?
¿Tienes algo que decir?
I just have one thing. I don't know if it reached anyone. There was a mention at the meeting that the Spanish translation of our meetings was not exactly accurate. And I don't know if anybody heard that on this end.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. No se escuchaba.
Perhaps we could address that at some point.
You mean the broadcast, Rachel?
Yes, the Spanish translation of it.
Se está viendo eso, la traducción en español, como que parece que no se ha entendido.
That might be what we do from the Hatters TV, I think. Okay, yeah.
Another committee? Okay.
Otro comité.
My report is short. I have a goal to hope that we can be done with our board meeting at least by tonight. I personally want to thank Nick Russo and all the board members that participated in the workshop last week when he went over the roles and responsibility of board members.
El miembro de reporte en la sesión
within the coming year of 2021.
En el coming year of 2021, en el año que se viene.
In the month of July or August, as a board and as a community,
as a comunidad,
parents, grandparents, we felt that it was very important to keep
es muy importante
and we had
informar, han
meetings
tenido reuniones
and to just really keep the community informed and the issues
para seguir la comunicación en la comunidad.
And things were changing so rapidly.
Cosas están cambiando.
That was a good idea, and I certainly appreciate you attending and being supportive of that initiative. Now, I feel like since September, we're back into our mode of board meetings.
Las
I
juntas
really don't want
directivas.
us to get lazy because we have a lot of things that we are working
Hay
on.
muchas cosas que se están trabajando ahora durante el verano.
We have hopefully some type of budget, something coming up, and we want to be able to be efficient.
No se está viendo si se puede hacer oficial.
And not be here all night. That we continue
Y para ver toda la.
the spiral. So what I'm trying to say is,
Están tratando de decir.
certain comments that were made
Hay
about
unos comentarios.
and how long it took for the comments to be made, and I thought about it quite a few nights, and we decided to do what we used to do at our regular board meeting.
Ellos van a tratar eso en otras juntas directivas. 3 minutos.
Just like we're at our regular board meeting in person. So we will start our board meeting at 7 o'clock, and we're going to end public participation at 7:30.
Ahorita está tratando, pero a veces no se le escucha bien.
There might be some other changes later on.
Van a haber otros cambios luego.
Members, if we're going to make a change,
los miembros van a ver cambios, al menos en la comunidad.
So tonight, again, I want to thank Cindy
esta noche.
Reading our comments, and
gracias.
She does an excellent job.
Hace un trabajo excelente.
The last thing I would say to board members, please, if you're participating in any type of discussion or communication,
si hay una discusión,
as a board member, just do the respect and let me know that you're participating.
Si van a participar, pueden llamarle.
And even though, I was not a part of that communication and engagement.
Parte de la
just let me know. I have no idea who's speaking and where you're speaking. So let's just work together, okay?
Quieren trabajar siempre juntos.
If seeing nothing else, I ask a motion to move in.
Can I ask a question before we?
Quieren hacer una pregunta.
I need a motion to move into executive session.
¿Quieren hacer una moción que sí? ¿Quieren hacer una pregunta primero?
Yes, right.
I just want to address. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Sí, ¿me puedes escuchar? Sí, yo te escucho.
So I've been hearing from a lot of parents about the, instructional time, and I brought this up at our last meeting, and it was day 2 of the school year. We're now in week 3, and Kara, you mentioned, when academics really start kicking in, a full instructional day will be completed and maybe more. So, so we're now in week 3, and I feel like where is the asynchronous piece to go with the synchronous? Teachers are still training.
Las profesoras siguen entrenando.
Can you speak a little bit about
¿Pueden hablar con respecto a eso? ¿Qué es lo que está pasando?
So, it's no secret that this has been
No es secreto
a fairly organized but difficult transition.
que
So teachers are still trying to get a handle on delivering the lessons.
Pero tratando de hacer las lecciones.
Two different types of scenarios at the
Hay
K-5
diferentes
level.
tipos de
We have our coaches, our instructional coaches, kind of curating a lot of content for the teachers to use in their Google Classrooms that's organized. We've prioritized standards so that we're making sure that with the time that we have with students that we're targeting the most important high leverage standards that we can, taking into consideration what went on in the spring and also where students are arriving in the fall. So there's a lot to manage there. Just navigating the technology piece.
La
kind of looking at standards in a little bit of a different way, and then delivering these lessons and having to really understand them first before you can deliver them. So there's been a lot of planning and time needed to do that at the K-5 level. As far as the students are building stamina to stay online right now, particularly at the younger grades. That has been a difficult transition for students as much as it has been for staff. So,
ha habido bastantes transiciones para los estudiantes como también para los trabajadores o los empleados.
And some are starting to do that now. So it may not be seen, particularly at the younger grades, you're not going to see as much there. But as kids start to get into 4th and 5th grade, then we start to hit middle school and up, you'll see more asynchronous work.
I guess I should have clarified. I guess I'm speaking more at the high school level.
Ella está buscando lo que es en las escuelas secundarias.
In the afternoons of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Sure. So let's talk about Edgenuity. So we have had a big portion of time that we wanted to make sure that kids were engaging in not just the synchronous but the asynchronous. We believed was going to come from Edgenuity, and we still believe that. Edgenuity has been we have been working with them to get our integration up and running. We had our first training session on September 16th. We originally had a training session set for teachers to go much earlier in the school year, so it was kind of part of that front-loading professional development. However, when we switched to distance learning, our entire schedule shifted, and we lost that training date. So when we rescheduled, the earliest date we could push out with integration was September 16th.
So la integración fue septiembre 16.
Integration issues with and working with that company in particular because they have taken on over 500 school districts in the last 30 days. And so we've been in the queue with them working on getting our systems up and running. So teachers, as of just yesterday, our middle school students were locked and loaded into the system. It took, I can't even begin to tell you, I think we're all still a little traumatized from how many appointments we've had with the engineers and the folks at Edgenuity to get it all up and running. So we are there now. Teachers will start to work with this program and start to do a little bit more at the secondary level, which will fill in a lot more of the time that we spoke of earlier. It's coming probably about 2 weeks later than we would have liked, but moving forward, you should see that. We also do like the fact that the Flex provides still that opportunity for students to get more support, as mentioned by the 2 students who were on earlier. It is, depending on what your needs are, you still have that opportunity. But the asynchronous work will come. Teachers are still kind of just working out the in-person synchronous piece, and that part will come with time. But having the right tools to do that is everything, and that's a piece at the secondary level that Edgenuity will help to fill as we go forward.
Las herramientas que se necesiten es
lo
que se busca.
More to come.
Hay más que ver, cosas más que van a venir. ¿Tienen alguna pregunta?
Second.
Motion made by Al, seconded by Jeff. All in favor? Did I hear aye?
Dicen aye.
Aye.